I open my eyes, and the first thing I want to do is scream. I'm flat on my back, and everything seems to hurt. The trees overhead look familiar. It's a clear night sky, almost beautiful. Except for the fact that this means I've been out cold for at least 6 hours. But there's something wrong. I don't remember what, but something happened, and my head. My God, my head hurts. And a ringing in my ears. Was there an accident? An explosion, I think. I remember Dennis screaming, but after that I can't remember. As I sit up, I notice that my hard hat has been thrown off. I look around the area, but it's not here. It feels strange to go anywhere without my hard hat. But I've got to find the other members of the crew. They could be in danger. I decide that my hat can wait until I figure out what's going on. I get up and take a look around the logging site. I smell something burning and don't hear any engines running. Wait, something isn't right. Was it the bulldozer? Maybe the damn thing overheated for the last time. Maybe the engine finally blew. What a mess. Well, maybe I'm jumping to conclusions. Only one way to find out, I guess. I walk over to the center of the logging site and don't like what I see. The logging site looks like a bomb was detonated right in the center. I don't know where to start. The one load we'd managed to stack on a truck for the day is overturned. The trailer bent and the logs hanging off the back. Where the hell is everyone? My head is killing me and this ringing in my ears. I can't hear anything. Not birds, not my footsteps, nothing. It makes me wonder if I hit my head after my hard hat flew off. I run through a quick mental checklist to make sure my brain is still working. My name is Roger Hastings. I'm 41 years old. The year is 2017. I own a small logging camp, and we've been logging in this strip of Kentucky woodland for almost a month now. Okay, so my brain works. That's a relief. But it also makes me fearful, because something is certainly not right here. I look around the logging camp, my mind trying to figure out what has happened. Just about every piece of equipment has been overturned or tilted. There are bits of debris everywhere. There are fragments of the 5-gallon bucket I keep our work rags in, a loose saw chain, and an overturned gas canister. Had there been an explosion, all the fuel on site would have started a fire, but there's no charring, no burning, nothing. I walked through the area where Dennis had been working. From the looks of it, he'd been moving slowly. He'd only taken out 4 trees today. His metal lunchbox was open, an indicator that he had been taking an early break, but he's not here. No one is here. Where the hell is everyone? I could try to make a call on my cell phone, but his battery's already running really low. Not that it matters, the reception is crap out here. Hey guys! Where is everyone? Tony, Dennis, Frank, Joe! But their names fall flat among the wreckage. I get nothing back other than scaring away a few birds overhead. I might as well start walking and try to find some answers. The highway is almost a mile back through the woods, down the gravel road we used to reach the site. Maybe the crew ran that way for help. But why would they have left me? Were they scared? Out of sorts? Maybe I can catch up to them. But with my truck turned over on its side, it looks like I'll be walking. My God, I can't even remember what I was doing before waking up on my back. Wait, what's that underneath the bulldozer? Oh my God, it's a leg. It has to be either Tony or Dennis. The dozer looks unstable, like it might roll some more. Might not be safe to get close, but at the same time, I can't just leave him there. Hey, I yell. Are you okay? Are you alive? I skip over the stray logs and wrecked equipment to get closer. Seeing the dozer teeter makes me think maybe I should have grabbed my hat. I can see a bit more of the leg. The jeans are soaked in blood. I recognize the work boots. It's clearly Tony. His leg is bent at an impossible angle, nearly crushed flat. The closer I get, the more apparent it becomes that Tony didn't survive. There's nothing I can do for him now. I start to back away slowly. In my shock, I stumble back, suddenly tripping over one of the stray logs. I bang my head hard on one of the logs as I fall. I instantly feel a massive lump forming on the back of my head. Damn, why didn't I grab my hard hat? But what hurts more is the realization that Tony is dead. Looking at him, I feel something rising up in my throat. I don't know if it's a scream or vomit, but I have to push it away. Shit, I can't believe this. Tony, he had 2 boys. He coached his oldest son's baseball team. He was the hardest worker I had and one of the most honest and reliable men I knew. This isn't right. I can't stay here. I have to find Dennis, Frank, and Joe. I have to find out what happened here. As I walk through the stacks of logs from the last week or so, everything feels frozen. This high-pitched sound in my ears, it's terrible. It keeps happening every few seconds like it's coming from far away. I can't help but wonder, is it my ears? Or is it something else? The silence out here is creepy, and there's a smell, like the atmosphere after a bad summer storm. I might as well admit it, I'm a little scared. Everyone is missing and it's dead quiet out here. There doesn't even seem to be a breeze to rustle the leaves and branches. My right knee hurts like hell. My head was hurting so bad before that I never even noticed the pain in my knee. I must have heard it during during the what? Accident or... Wait, is that Dennis? I see him sitting on the ground, motionless, about 30 feet away. Hey! Are you a monster, Dennis? Can you hear me? Dennis lets out a shout like someone waking from a nightmare. He then looks back at me from the ground. Yeah, Roger, I can hear you. He hollers back as I head over to him. Dennis is built like a wrestler and has the tough personality to match. But in this moment, he looks disoriented and even a little anxious. So I'm glad to see him. The fear on his usually confident face is alarming. What the hell happened? What's going on? He asks. Don't know, the crew is missing. Tony's dead. Missing? Where do you think they went? I'm not sure, I say, but it has me pretty freaked out. Something's not right here. Still sitting on the ground, he looks around the woods as if he's just now understanding the severity of the situation. The equipment was overturned, the dozers too, I say, waving my forehead. You okay? I ask him. Yeah, just shaken up. Me too. This might be the most intimate conversation Dennis and I ever had. Well, he and I have always been on good terms. We've never been particularly close. I've always respected him, though. Sure, he's come to work a few times looking like he'd been in a bar fight the night before. But I've also seen him do an enthusiastic impression of a dinosaur as he played with Tony's kid while they waited for their dad to finish up his shift. It's then that it hits me. Dennis and Tony were good friends. I'm not sure I want to rattle him with the news of Tony's death right now. Not before we know what's going on, but he has the right to know. Dennis's eyes fixate on me, startled. He was crushed under the dozer, I say. Dennis pauses for a moment like he's trying to understand what I said. His eyes narrow and his bottom lip quivers. Shit, he says, and I can tell that he's fighting back tears. He and Tony had been tight, almost like brothers. Hey, he adds quickly as if trying to escape reality. Did you see that light? No. What did you see? I don't even know, Roger. It was like this flare of white light. It came right up out of the ground. Like an explosion. So there was an explosion, I say. Maybe it was some equipment or... This was no equipment. This huge ball of light came right out of the damn ground. Where'd it go? It just shot up into the sky until it was out of sight. When? I'm not sure, but I'd finished about 10 trees for the day and was about to top one. That's when it happened. You were almost done with 10 trees, I ask? Yeah, I wouldn't want to take a lunch break until I was done. And that's when that light blew up. Why? You don't believe me? He saw what he saw. I think to myself, he has no reason to lie about it. My God, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. But if I'm being honest, it scared me pretty bad. And if it's all the same to you, I'd like to get the hell out of here. We both stand up and start heading towards the road. It wasn't until we start moving that I see Dennis is wounded. His right side is coated with blood. Red seeping through his blue work shirt. There's splatters of it here and there, but also a very large red splotch. That makes me worry. What happened? I'm not sure. I must have gotten thrown or hurt somewhat from the light. It's then that I notice the strange ringing noise is still filling the air. Hey, do you hear that high-pitched ringing noise every once in a while? Dennis looks scared when I ask him this question, and he just nods. I thought it was just me, he says. He looks out of sorts and uncertain. I've never seen him like this before. It's obvious that he's looking for some reassurance. Even though I'm his boss, there's something very unnerving about this. We'll be okay. It's probably nothing. Let's be realistic, I tell myself. I might as well try to be empathetic. Out here in the middle of these woods, the ringing could be anything. Maybe a car alarm from through the woods or something. Still, even my passive comment seems to have reassured Dennis. He looks a bit calmer, more relaxed. We both start moving forward and don't say another word. Did you try to call Frank? I know he had his cell on him today. Not yet. Luckily, I still have some battery left. I pull out my cell and call Frank, happy I didn't make that call to Dennis earlier. It rings, but he doesn't pick up. But when I hear his phone go off behind the stack of logs, Dennis and I give each other a look. As the phone goes to voicemail, I hang up and we walk behind the logs to find Frank's phone on the ground, abandoned. We look around for Frank, but find nothing, not a single trace. It's then that I notice something really odd. A 10-foot wide hole in the ground right near where the phone was. But there's no stray piles of removed dirt or rocks. It's clean, smoothly dug, cutting into the earth, wide but only a few feet deep. It looks so natural, like the ground was just deleted, no shovels or diggers used. Dennis walks over to it. This looks like the same kind of hole where I saw that light come from the ground. I say nothing. My mind is spinning, but I don't know what to think. We need to get out of here, Dennis mutters. At this moment, that ringing noise carries through the forest again, sending a shiver down my spine. Dennis is right. There's something strange going on, and we might not be safe here. But that ringing sound could be a clue to where the rest of the crew went. Something's not right, and if there's a mechanical noise like that... You think someone is out there, he asks? Maybe. I think we should at least check it out. They might be able to help. Yeah, you go right ahead, he says with a grin. I'll be waiting for you here. Better hurry, though. No, you're coming with me. I bend over and hoist him up against my shoulder. He resists just barely and then gives in. He's looking at me like he's terrified of me now, making a moan in his throat. We start moving through the woods quickly. With no idea where the rest of the crew is, I worry they could be in danger. Every tree out here looks exactly the same. I grew up in the country and could find my way around the forest without much of a problem, but I'm feeling dizzy. I'm leaning against a tree when I see something that has no business being out here. Our logging crew's been out here for 3 weeks, and I've never seen it before. It's a small building, sort of like a mixture of a shack and a bunker. It looks to be made of concrete, but moss, weeds, and plain old erosion is making it look sort of mystical. It looks like something out of a demented version of a medieval fantasy movie. The hell is this? Dennis asks. You purchased this land, right, boss? Didn't you survey it? I certainly did, I say, getting a little defensive, but this wasn't here. Do you think the others maybe went in here? He asks nervously. Why would they do that? I don't know, but they aren't out here. If they aren't inside, they're probably dead. Like Tony. He looks at the ground as he says this. I want to go inside, not just to find my crew, but also to appease my curiosity. That ringing noise is coming from inside. But something about this place seems incredibly strange. Especially located all by itself out here. It simply doesn't belong. I wonder, do we knock or just go in? I can tell that he's trying to make a joke, but it falls flat. I'm starting to think his humor is a defense mechanism for his fear. We both look ahead, take a moment to realize what we're about to do, and start forward. We get no more than 3 feet closer when Dennis wobbled. I reach out quickly, straining my injured knee. I barely make it in time, grabbing him under his arms and keeping him from hitting the ground. I'm okay, he said. Just, can you help me walk for a little while? Just help me inside, please. I can't deny him his request. I've never seen him this weak, and it's a little uncomfortable to see. It makes me glad I decided to keep him with me. I help Dennis into the weird little building. The front door opens easily, even though there's clearly a lock on it. Maybe the lock was supposed to keep someone in. It's hard to tell. I still hear that ringing noise. It's definitely coming from in there. Stretching out in front of me is a small interior to match the outside. The building is totally empty. There's a concrete floor and dingy, featureless walls. There are no windows, giving the place an even more isolated feel. Still, we hear the ringing noise coming from somewhere in here. It's louder now, more prominent. The interior seems confined at first, but a small set of concrete steps leads about 5 feet down, revealing a corridor. It's a massive corridor, in fact. Like I'm in some kind of building underground. It seems to go on forever. This corridor is mostly dark with emergency lights every 10 feet or so. I assume we're now underground because this corridor extends far beyond the walls of the building we entered. I realize that someone might not appreciate finding us here. I feel like a ghost. Like I truly have no business here. Dennis leans on me for support. We move slowly, our feet not making a sound. If anyone is in here, I want to make sure they don't hear us. We tiptoe forward as softly as we can. As I carry Dennis to the far end of this otherwise featureless place, I see a flight of concrete stairs leading down. I have to set Dennis down on the floor. His weight is killing me. Dennis, are you okay? Stop worrying, man. I'll be okay. I just need a minute to rest. But looking at him, I'm not too sure. I can still hear the ringing noise every so often coming from somewhere in here. I look ahead at the concrete stairs, pointing towards them so that Dennis sees them. Can you make it down those stairs, I ask? He stands up slowly and is visibly making an effort to not fall back down again. Yeah, he says. Sounds a little irritated. He starts for the stairs without me, and I have no choice but to follow. We approach the stairs, and by just looking at them, I get the sense that we're crossing some sort of line here. There may very well be no going back. As I head down the stairs, I notice that they look aged. The damn ringing noise is somewhere below, louder than ever. I feel like I'm walking down into the cellar of a haunted house. The light becoming scarce as the stairs take a slight turn. I can feel the temperature drop. Dennis makes it just a few steps down before he's leaning on the wall. He's breathing like he just finished a marathon. Let's take a break, I say, putting my hand towards his shoulder to help steady him. Dennis lets out a sigh. Thanks. I don't feel too great, boss. As we both squat down on the stair, my mind seems to lock in on the unknown fate of the rest of my crew. Frank is married, and I met his wife a few times. A nice woman with a huge laugh. My heart sags a bit when I realize I might never get to hear him belting out a classic rock tunes during lunch break. Joe. Well, I don't know too much about him. He's 22 years old and is considering community college. His folks are deadbeats, so he'd been providing for himself since the age of 16. Maybe I can still find him. Still get to hear Frank singing in his deep baritone voice after a few too many drinks. After a few moments, Dennis says, "All right, let's keep going." We both stand up, leaning on each other. I have to make Dennis stay behind me as I stick my foot out in search of the next step. I can't help feeling like a child as a very powerful fear seizes me. I'm expecting a monster to reach out of the darkness, slicing into my throat. After what feels like forever, we come to the bottom of the stairs. We're closer to that ringing noise now. A door sits securely in the wall and looks just outside of place down here as I feel. A sliver of light seeps through, illuminating the area. The door has what looks like a panel with a lot of labels and lights. Small embossed print above the panel says, Level 1 Entrance Gate, Transport Sector, and there's a button with no label. The panel looks like some kind of diagnostic or alert system of some kind. Each label meant to communicate some status. Lockdown engaged, experiment in progress, shutdown engaged. All these appear to be off, but one of the phrases has a slowly blinking red light next to it. The only powered light on this whole thing. Abnormal entity breach. What the hell? I slowly push the door open, though Dennis suddenly steps in front of me, taking the lead. "Let's go," he says. "I want to find out what the hell this place is." As Dennis walks through, that ringing or beeping or whatever it was gets a little louder. The door closes behind us with a click. I can't help but notice the wobble in Dennis's step as he lets out a grunt. "You sure you're healthy enough to keep going?" I ask. "It doesn't matter. I don't want to be in the woods right now." He seems scared, something I've never seen before. Angry, yes. Upset, yes. But Dennis is never scared. "What did you see?" "I don't know what it was, boss. It was like someone had left a radio on crackling. But we don't have any radios at the site. I don't know. It was like something in the forest was moving." I gave him a doubtful look and he cast his eyes to the ground, frustrated. I know how it sounds, but I know what I felt. It was like walking into a funeral parlor, feeling death and gloom everywhere. I've never been so preoccupied with my own fear that I nearly forgot about the ringing noise. It just became background noise. I take a few more steps and I can now see where we are. It makes no sense. Yeah, another thing that simply seems out of place. The shapes and muted colors of metal are easy to identify, but it just doesn't belong here. We're standing on the thin platform of what looks like a fancy subway. The rails look well used, but not old. There are small overhead lights that are very dim, as if they're running on emergency power. The dim overhead lights are a blessing, but the size of the place makes me feel vulnerable. Staring ahead, the tunnel seems to be endless. It's almost dizzying. But there's a small light further ahead and then a space that breaks the monotony of the tunnel's curved surface. Another platform, maybe. Why are we in a subway tunnel? Dennis, what do you think of this? Looks like we're waiting for the D train, Dennis says with a deadly-sounding cackle. Also, the ringing noise is louder down here. It's much more solid now, and there's some other sound. Something like the faint hum of machinery. What's your take on this, boss? You think we're safe down here? Not at all, is what I think to myself, but I don't want to let Dennis see that I'm rattled. While he seems to be limping along much better than we first stumbled into this place, he's still in rough shape. I'm leading him here, and I should probably make him feel confident in that. We're too far in to go back. Besides, if we get caught for trespassing, I'm pretty sure we'd slide by. We're good. You're in pain, and we've got to find the rest of our crew. They could still be here somewhere. Dennis nods and looked reassured, albeit weak and miserable. Suddenly, I jerk my head to the right as I hear the unmistakable sound of someone walking. Did you hear something? I asked Dennis, my eyes straining to see if anything in the darkness. Not sure. Maybe it sounded like footsteps. I wait a moment, but the sound doesn't come again. So those are our options. If there's anyone here, they're worth speaking to. As we leave the glow of electric lights, things instantly start to feel a bit more sinister. I look at Dennis's injuries again. The gash along his side is inflamed now. And while the bleeding seems to have stopped, the amount that is soaked into his pants and shirt is beyond alarming. How much further can you walk? Can you keep going? Yeah, let's walk into the deep dark tunnel that has no business being here. He's right. The darkness we find ourselves in feels thick, like walking in syrup. I'm reminded of the fear I felt as a child when I had to go into the basement to fetch tools for my dad. I was sure there were snakes or spiders or monsters of unimaginable horror lurking down there. I feel that same way walking here, through the tunnel. That's when I see a human figure, far in the back of the tunnel, silhouetted in the faint light at the end. He's standing on some other platform up ahead and likely can't see us. It looks like he might be holding a gun, but it's too dark to be sure. Hey, who's there? My voice echoes through the tunnel, bouncing endlessly off the falls. The figure turns towards us and freezes like a deer sensing danger. Why the hell did you do that? We don't know who that is. We don't know where we are. I don't know. Maybe he can answer some questions. But that doesn't happen. The person can't see us in the dark. And after a moment, the figure rushes away through a door up ahead. As we head further into the tunnel, we reach another platform. There's lights coming from the platform, but like the overhead lights, they're dim, red emergency lights. I start to wonder if the explosion at the logging site caused a power outage in this place, whatever this place is. The ringing noise that I originally thought was in my head is getting louder. I'm starting to think it's some sort of alarm. When we come to the large open area ahead in the tunnel, it further resembles a subway station. As much as I try to ignore the reality, it's undeniable. We stumbled into some sort of high-tech transportation system that is buried beneath the forests of Kentucky. It makes absolutely no sense and creates an entirely new sort of fear as to what the hell we've walked into. I notice that Dennis seems confident, though. When we reach the large opening, we have to climb over the rails up onto the platform. I have to help Dennis over the rails, but then up to the small utility ladder that is bolted into the opposite side of the travelway. When he reaches the large opening area resembling a subway waiting area, he collapses on the floor and lets out a heaving breath. You know what? This is ridiculous. I quit. I'm not going any further. On top of worrying about my crew and the madness of where we are, I'm not in the mood for Dennis to act like a baby. We can do this, Dennis. We can do this. I'm not the one with the gash in my side, I think to myself, so I decide to cut him some slack. Damn, boss. I'm sorry. It's okay. I don't know how you're still on your feet, if I'm being honest. Stubbornness, he says with a weak laugh. You need a minute to rest? I ask as warmly as I can muster. No. If I sit down to rest, I'm afraid I might not get back up. Let's keep going while I can still go. I reach down to help him to his feet, and then we get ourselves up on the platform. Right in front of us, there's an entrance to a long hallway, exiting the platform area. It's at this point that I realize these red emergency lights might be on for someone else who is actually supposed to be here. Like that guy I saw earlier, standing on the platform. Hello, anyone here? There's not much of an echo, my voice falls flat like a rock from the sky. I'm almost glad that I didn't get an answer. Hearing anything else in this hollow silence would have given me a heart attack. The emergency lights continue to flicker overhead, casting a sick sort of pinkish light on everything. My mind is racing with what sort of place this might be. It's obvious that it's meant to be a secret. And if it is supposed to be a secret, there was a power outage recently. Maybe most everyone has been evacuated. And then why was that one person still here? This thought does nothing to make me feel any better as we walk towards the platform exit. We step inside and it seems just as empty as every other place we've come through, weakly illuminated by more overhead lights. We're standing inside a hallway that looks surreal for a moment. Maybe it was a good idea, maybe it wasn't, I have no idea. The hallway reminds me of a hospital wing, but there's something not quite right about it. It's the first clean and tidy area I've seen since coming into the woods. It looks like it was recently in use despite the dim emergency lights overhead. There are chairs against the walls and the floor. It looks well cleaned, as do the walls. The ringing noise is definitely coming from here, and a small flashing red light along the ceiling seems to flash along with it. That ringing noise is an alarm, I say, only to confirm my own thoughts. But for what, Dennis asks. And then he asks a question that has been on my mind since I found the little building in the woods. What the hell is this place? We exchange a look that speaks volumes. We reach the end of the hallway and hear a sound like a large metallic grinding. This is followed by a clicking noise and then the unmistakable noise of a generator kicking on. Without a warning, the facility jolts to life. The red glow of the emergency lights is suddenly replaced by a bright white fluorescent one. The mechanical hum is oddly comforting. Somehow the power being back on urges us on. It's then that I notice the ringing noise has stopped. We head down the hallway, the electric hum of the lights sounding eerie overhead. Other than that, the place is dead quiet. The hall is about 100 feet long, with two main doors. One door opens onto a large room that looks like a conference room with a whiteboard and papers strewn about. Across the hallway is another door that looks like a laboratory of some sort. Dennis slumps against the wall in defeat and lets out a scary-sounding chuckle. Something funny, I ask, as a dark and brooding panic starts to grip me. Dennis just keeps chuckling as he slides down to the floor. I'm just gonna sit here while you look around, he says. There's a look in his eyes that reminds me far too much of a dead animal on the side of the road. A large table sits in the middle of the room. Lined with a series of chairs, it looks like something straight out of a showroom. A well-used whiteboard hangs on the wall, and there are scattered papers on the desks. A few things are scribbled on the whiteboard, mostly formulas and names. But there are some things that are easy to understand, things that make my blood go cold. Subject 6, cause of death, embolism or aneurysm, or both. Ideas for new delivery modes, spherical liquid induced comatose state first, TerraCore Co., possible plutonium supplier. Most of the papers and printouts have codes and equations that go way over my head, but there are also handwritten notes that don't make me feel any better about our situation. I read through them and see scrawled notes that say things like, last experiment failed, overdose before transport, levels indicate cellular catabolism. More lead shielding in export suits? Measurements make no sense. Let Barksdale know about possible Higgs field fix. Outside in the hallway, I hear Dennis grunting. I head out of the room to see him still seated on the floor. But I don't get very far, because as I exit, a man comes rushing around the corner with an automatic rifle in his hands. It's hard to look beyond his rifle, but the man carrying it is young with messy dark hair. His skin is so pale that I wonder if he lives down here. He has the look of a guy who's been cooped up for a little too long. He doesn't seem to like the kind of person I trust with a gun in a stressful situation. As he sees us in the doorway, he screams and brings a gun up. It's aimed directly at my head. Dennis jumps up and stands next to me like he's ready to run for it. I recognize him by his height and build. He's the person I could barely see back in the dark hallway. I put my hands in the air, surprised at how natural it feels to go into this surrendered state. Maybe it's because this feels like a dream. Maybe it's because I feel like I'll snap awake if a maniac pulls the trigger. "Who are you and how did you get here?" the man asks harshly. Before we can answer, he continues speaking. "I don't recognize you. If you're here, you would have had to sneak by the security mics in the entrance hall." "What?" I ask, unable to think of anything else to say. "Who are you? Did you do this?" The man eyes us both, and I see something in his eyes that unsettles me. He's scared, but there's something else. "We're just loggers." His eyes look distant for a minute, and then he says bullshit. But for some reason, I'm pretty sure he knows I'm telling the truth. "Someone knocked the power out," the man says. "It's back on now, but if it was out long enough, well, we're in a heap of trouble." "Was it you? Who sent you?" "Look, we don't know what you're talking about. Something happened out in the woods." "Are you alone? Are there others with you?" the man asks, thrusting the gun in my face. How the hell did we get in this situation? I think to myself. If only I had left that damn ringing noise alone, we wouldn't be here. I'm not really sure if we want to give this guy any information yet. We don't know anything about him. Then again, he might have answers. We have other crew members that we can't find. "Your crew?" he says, confused. If this man thinks that we're nuts, there's no telling what he might do. The fact that he looks a little crazy himself makes the situation even hairier. "How'd you get in here?" I point down the hall towards the subway. "We came in that way. The doors weren't locked." His expression calms a bit, but I'm still very aware of the gun that is leveled less than a foot away from my face. "Please, put the gun down. The only way I'm putting this rifle down is after I've blown your brains out." With that, he sticks the muzzle of the gun in my face. It's a childish move, a playground tactic at best, but it's sufficient to show me that he knows he's in control now. He then levels the rifle at Dennis, and I can only assume it's because his wounds make him appear to be the weaker of us. The man takes a shaky step forward. Dennis looks back and forth between the barrel of the gun and me, his eyes pleading for help. Before I'm fully aware of what I'm doing, I step out in front of Dennis. The barrel of the rifle is nearly touching my chest now. Both Dennis and the man seem a little confused at my action, and I do my best to swallow down my fear. "I don't know what's going on here, but we are here by mistake." "Well, you have no business here. But now that the power's on, I think you might be too late anyway." "For what?" I ask. But he doesn't answer me. Instead, he steps forward and actually pushes me backwards with the end of his rifle. The man then repeats a question he asked before, one that makes no sense and honestly makes me think he might be a little crazy. "Who sent you? You assholes from the Pentagon?" I'm not sure how to take this question. "No, what the hell are you talking about?" "No, we're just loggers. Something blew up and my friend got hurt. We're looking for the rest of our crew." Likely story, but I see a flicker of recognition in his face that makes me think he might believe me. Still, his grip on the gun is as tight as ever, and the look on his face makes me think he'll shoot at any moment. "You both just stand still. Sooner or later, someone will come along and I'll turn you over." He again thrusts the gun forward as if it had an invisible bayonet on it. There's no need for that. I have no guarantee that he won't pull the trigger. "Look, we don't want any trouble. We're just as confused as you are." Then in a movement so fast that I just about miss it, Dennis lunges forward. I have no idea how he's moving so fast. Just 30 seconds ago, I was worried about how close to death he looked. But now that he's moving lightning fast, his left arm coming down on the barrel of the gun like a club. In the commotion, the man does pull the trigger. The booming noise is deafening, and there's a moment where I think I've been hit. It takes the clanging noise of the round tearing into the floor at my feet to help me realize that I've not been shot. I look to the floor and see where the shot missed my right leg by 3 inches. I'm paralyzed, in shock for a moment as Dennis and the man fight over possession of the rifle. Dennis has the man pinned to the floor, but isn't strong enough to keep him down. As I fall to the floor to help, the barrel of the rifle swings by the front of my face, and a reminder of how close I'd come to being shot. On my knees now, I deliver a hard, stiff punch to the man's face. I don't punch someone often, never really. I'm not usually the brawling type. Still, it is apparently effective. The man's head snaps back hard and his grip on the gun loosens. Dennis grabs the gun and falls to the floor, clearly winded and in pain. Our attacker is immobilized and I can feel a shift in the situation. He's definitely out now, no threat. At least that's what I think. But he surprises me by mustering up one more swift kick in my direction, connecting with my forehead. My eyelid swells to the size of a grape almost immediately. Seems like this last attack is more to spite me than to defend himself. I stumble back and ready myself for another round of blows, but he just slouches into the floor. He's done. Dennis instantly hands the rifle over to me, and I take it with shaking hands. "I can't believe you stepped between me and that gun. He could have killed you." "I was pretty sure he wouldn't. I say, although I had no such thing. Still, thanks, man. That was some heroic stuff. You would have done the same, right? Dennis says nothing. His eyes look to the floor. What do we do now, boss? We've come this far and I want answers. I sense that Dennis does too. I take a hard look at the man before I reply. We get answers from this guy. No answers. I don't have any, he says. Next time I won't just hit you. Now get up. He obeys quickly, but his legs are wobbly and he leans against a wall for support. I can feel my swollen eyelid from where he kicked me earlier. I just hope it doesn't get so bad that it affects my sight. Okay, let's move, I say, pointing the gun further down the hallway. We've come this far and I'm not gonna let this guy stop us. We walk down the hallway until we come to an end. A single elevator waits for us. Its steel sliding doors larger than a normal elevator. I can tell he's making him uncomfortable for me to have the gun. What's your name, I ask. Marcus. And you work here? It's clear that he doesn't want to answer, but he gives us a little nod. We're looking for the rest of our crew. Any idea where they might be? No, he says curtly, not bothering to elaborate. I need a first aid kit from my friend here. Where might I find one? Down on the second floor, but we can't go down there. Tell us what's on level 2. He looks at me like I'm an idiot. You must be aware you're inside a classified government facility, he says. It makes sense, but I want to doubt it. Well, I'm sure our government will want you to help me save my friend. So take me to the first aid kit. I can't. You don't have clearance. Hell, I barely have clearance. Then, seemingly to himself, he mutters, I make this place run. And not even a thank you. Just a bunch of restricted access rooms that I'm not allowed to go into with a frickin' chaperone. We're going to that first aid kit, I interrupt. I could lose my job! I wonder for a moment what sort of trouble I could get him in for hitting a government employee. This makes me glad I took it easy on him. Then again, he had come at us with a rifle. It makes me think that things have gone terribly wrong in this place. And the explosion in the woods, or whatever the hell happened, might be linked to it all. I need to convince him to take us to the second floor, but I'm not sure if it would be more productive to threaten him or ask for sympathy. Look, it hasn't been the best day. We're just trying to find out what's going on to find our crew to survive. I know that this isn't a normal situation down here. It looks like all your protocols have been blown to hell. Can't you help us out? He looks at me sternly, weighing his options. Okay, he says. Thank you, I say. With an untrusting stare, Marcus walks to the elevator door, approaching a small keypad by the doors. He punches in a numerical code on the keypad and we hear a slight mechanical hum behind the steel doors. After a few seconds of angry glances and frightened sneers from Marcus, the elevator arrives. The steel doors slide open with a whisper, revealing the interior. It's exceptionally well lit and looks to be made of stainless steel. I half expect the thing to take off at the speed of light. There's another small keypad on the front right panel by the door with the options of 3 sub-level 4s. It looks like this elevator doesn't go to the surface. So after we get a first aid kit for Dennis, how do we get out of here? We can't leave. Once the power comes back on, the whole place was put on lockdown. What? Can't you override it? No, it's to prevent anything from getting out. I can't. Marcus looks as deflated as Dennis. We can't get out. We're stuck here. Dennis leans into the corner and almost falls onto the floor. The struggle for the rifle really took a lot out of him. I can see that much on his face. Slowly we start to move down. The hum and grind of the car's motors fills the space. So we're stuck here forever? Marcus scowls at me. I think it's a fair question. Doesn't seem unreasonable to assume he won't be able to help us get out. We'll find somebody with access codes and they'll be begging me to figure out how to lift the lockdown. These people think they're so brilliant, but some of them can barely turn their computers on without help. The top coder in my class at MIT, and I'm stuck living underground helping idiots who don't even trust me with keys. It's a government facility of the highest secrecy, a research facility. It goes 4 stories underground, and quite frankly, it scares the piss out of me that you two got in here so easily. Why is that, I ask? This is a black ops graveyard. Even the CIA doesn't know this place exists. I handle the IT work and make sure the databases are up and running. It's a 24/7 job. I haven't seen sunlight in almost a year. I wonder what staying in a place like this does for that long would do to someone's mind. I was recruited. Because of the workload, no one else wants this job, but I don't really mind being by myself. No family. Plus the IT. Some crazy shit. This place generates over 100 terabytes of data per day. He answers, getting the slightest bit excited before his face falls again. What happened here? Seems like some sort of power outage. That's all I know. There was an outage and then what? Dennis asks weakly. Then things got weird. Things got bad. Bad how? The whole place seemed to shake when the lights went out. I was checking the monitors when it happened and everything went dead. It took no more than a minute or so before I started hearing screams. People were being killed by something. I tried getting the security cameras going again, but they only lasted for a little bit on my backup systems. What I saw. What? I asked, feeling a sharp fear worn its way into my guts. What I saw on the screens for a little bit of time made no sense. It made me get the gun from the emergency vault. I I think whatever it is, it's still down here. Hold on, there's an emergency vault with a rifle in the same room as security cameras in this place? Marcus gives me a grin that looks nearly insane. There are guns locked away in every room in this place, just in case, you know. Just in case of what? So we're still in danger here. As he opens his mouth to answer, the elevator comes to a stop and the door slides open. Marcus is out right away without a word. He makes his exit and heads directly for a glassed-in room that's filled with computer monitors and high-end equipment. Dennis and I file in behind him, trying to keep up, but as we do, one very alarming question runs through my head. What the hell kind of government facility keeps loaded gun and emergency vaults in every single room? We follow Marcus into what I can only describe as a control room of sorts. There are countless computer screens, some of which are obviously coming back on from having been shut off. Everything looks extremely complicated, from screens filled with code and data to what is obviously a security system. It reminds me of a miniaturized version of the operations center in just about every space travel movie I've ever seen. Marcus is running from one screen to another, apparently looking for some pertinent bit of information. "Where's the first aid kit?" I snap at him. Marcus stops in his tracks, as if he'd forgotten the whole reason for bringing us down here. "Oh yeah," he says, rushing to the left side of the room. There, he hunkers down by an open panel in the wall, what I assume is the emergency vault from where he got the rifle. I peer over Marcus's shoulder into the vault he's opened. It's much larger than it looks from the outside. It's partially filled with file folders marked classified, a few rounds of ammo for a rifle, a peculiar plastic kit filled with syringes, and a locked black box. As Marcus digs around, one of the folders slips open. For the split second it's open, I see a scanned document and a color photo. The photo shows a male corpse with its guts on the outside of its body, as if it had been turned inside out. There's also a massive swelling on his head, almost like his skull is about to explode. Marcus slaps the folder closed, and then I turn my attention to one of the syringes. It's filled with a violet-colored fluid that, while rather pretty in color, looks deadly. Marcus finally pulls out the first aid kit and turns around. When I look back to motion Dennis over, he's paler than ever. "Come on," I tell him, but he's not moving from the place on the floor where he sits against the wall. I slide the first aid kit over to him and go scrambling to his side. Between the struggle for the rifle upstairs and arriving in this room, he's faded fast. I struggle to lift up his shirt and then over his shoulder as the dried blood holds it in place. The mere act causes him to grimace. "This might hurt a little," I tell Dennis. He only nods. He doesn't seem to care. I lift the shirt off gently and makes a sucking sound. There's so much blood that the moisture tries to keep the shirt pulled to him. Dennis lets out a little moan but seems to relax in spite of his injuries. With the shirt fully removed, the extent of his injuries become more clear. His wound is more visible now, although it's partially hidden by the blood that has started to clot around it. My medical knowledge is slim, basically just a bunch of basics I learned in Boy Scouts. I look over to Marcus hopefully and ask, "You have any training?" "Zero," he says. "Sorry." It's just as well, I guess. He's far too concerned with what's happening on the monitors to be of much help anyway. I start by taking out several rolls of gauze within the kit and wipe as much blood as I can away from the wound on his side. It's even worse than I'd figured from the start. The gash is deep. I'm pretty sure it's infected, too. He's going to need stitches, that's for sure, but I have no idea how to even start that. Besides, I don't see the tools for it in the kit. When I splash rubbing alcohol over the wound, he responds with a hoarse yelp of surprise, but nothing more. His eyes are locked on me and he looks appreciative, but he's also scared. "Be honest," Dennis says hopefully. "How bad does it look? You think I'll live?" "See, I think you'll be fine." "Good to know," he says, "but I sure don't feel like that." "You've been through hell," I say. "I think it feels worse than it actually looks." "Thanks. That's a relief." "I won't lie. You're gonna have a scar," I say, trying to be funny. He chuckles a bit, but there's no humor in it. He rests his head against the wall and closes his eyes as I finish up. I place one layer of gauze against the wound and bind it with medical tape. I then reinforce it with the second layer. I know it's meager, but it's all I can do. "Thanks, Roger," he says, actually managing to force out a smile. "I feel a lot better. I think I'll be fine." I'm not so sure about that, but I'm glad I was able to encourage him. Finally, I patch up the bruises on my head a bit, cursing myself again for not grabbing my hard hat. I look back at Marcus, and he's really looking back at us, deep in thought. My eyes starting to really swell up from where he kicked me earlier. Maybe I shouldn't have let him off so easy. "Are the first aid kits all you have in this facility? If there's something better, I don't know about it." I noticed then that his defensive posture is no longer there. Something is different now, just a slight change in his demeanor. He's seen something on those monitors that has him frightened, more than he already was before. "What is it? What's wrong?" His eyes travel around the room and it's obvious that he's trying to decide whether or not to tell me the truth. Rather than wait for him, I get up and scan the screens behind him, seeing if I can find any clues I'd missed moments ago. After a few moments, I see a few things that even I can comprehend hidden in the complex information on most of the screens. On one screen, I see what looks like a power meter that's slowly climbing upwards. A single message is flashing beneath it. It reads, "Unexpected power failure, foreign entity." Another message trickling along the bottom of a black screen says, "Safety locks on level 3, containment doors engaged. Override?" I see still scenes on a few other screens that I assume are security cameras showing hallways and passages from elsewhere in the facility. One of them shows the first level hallway we were on just a few minutes ago. Another shows a hallway I don't recognize. The floor is covered in blood. From just off the screen, I see what I think might be a human body, but it's bent in an impossible way. It looks like the body's legs and torso have somehow been merged or melted into the floor. What is wrong with that body? I have no idea. I didn't see it. Whatever happened to that guy must have happened in the last minute or so. What the hell? There's something still happening? Are we still in danger? He turns away, clearly fearing he has already said too much. And as bad as that is, there's a scene on another monitor that makes my blood go cold, and my fear spike to levels somewhere near terror. The scene is very familiar. It's the logging site. The equipment is unmistakably mine. I can even see my truck. Something like fury starts to rise up in my guts, momentarily pushing aside the fear. For a moment, I consider just tearing into him. A few punches and a shove against the wall, nothing more. I want answers, and I want them now, but I'm not sure which would provide more answers, asking calmly or kicking his ass. Could you please explain to me why you've been spying on my crew? My anger is prodding at me, and I have to hold it back again. It's near the surface, demanding a release. It was part of my job, mine and a few others. Your crew has been watched ever since you set up your equipment. Why? Because you're working with heavy equipment, some of which digs into the ground less than a mile from a secret government facility. I had no idea of that. How could I have known? Marcus gives me that same crooked, trembling smile that's beginning to creep me out. Because those things would draw attention to this place. You have no idea how secretive this facility is. Besides, I know that the higher-ups looked into it. Your site isn't on government land, it's shy by about 300 yards. Every piece of your equipment is on private property, the timber contract you purchased from Mr. Gladstone 2 months ago. So even if we wanted to intervene and keep your crew away, we couldn't have without stirring up a fuss. The fact that someone with such a low-level clearance knows this much about my logging crew is unnerving. If you've been watching us, why didn't you recognize us when we met in the hallway, I ask. He shakes his head and exhales, like it's obvious. The cameras have a bird's eye view. I can't see faces, we just track bodies and names. So since you have all this surveillance, do you know where the rest of my crew is? I do my best to keep my voice level, even though my impulse is to shout. Well, all of you were on site as usual before the incident. It had a few hours since I had checked, though. They might have come near the facility, or maybe not, I don't know. He says this casually, like it's not important. Well, are they inside the facility? You have cameras everywhere, right? Do you see them? Marcus shakes his head. I've been looking all over and I haven't seen your crew. They aren't here. But the lower levels don't have any cameras, classified. I'm not sure how they would have gotten there, but it's a possibility. I'm still shocked that we were being watched. Do they know everything about us? I'm telling you, the depth of influence in this facility goes deep. There are 36 employees down here. Outside of those employees, only 5 other people know this place exists. He doesn't even pause to consider if he should go any further. He actually laughs when he gives me the answer. I honestly don't know everything. Probably very little. But what I do know is that is more than black ops. What does that mean, I ask? There are scientists here who have been disowned by their own governments because of the nature of their work. You get it now? I don't. Not at all. But I don't want him to know that. You said there are 36 employees. Where are they now? He shakes his head. As far as I know, everyone else is gone. Gone where? He points to the screen that still informs us of unexpected power failure and cringes. If this power failure was not corrected in time, there's no telling. But they're here in the facility somewhere, right? I ask, hoping someone will be able to help Dennis better than I. I just don't know. They could be anywhere. Look, I say, furious with the way he's talking in riddles. I don't... God, Dennis says. I look over to him and he's pale as a ghost. He stood up and his eyes are locked on the monitor closest to him. What? He simply points to the monitor and then looks away. I look at the monitor and see the logging site. But more specifically, I see the overturned dozer and the legs sticking out from under it, wearing work boots, right where I left him. Tony. The fact of his death seemed abstract, almost like it happened in some other world, or very long ago. I know that you already told me he was gone, but it's different actually seeing him. My God. Suddenly something blazes by the open door outside. The shape is fast and in shadow, but I'm pretty sure it's a person. Someone else is here, Marcus says, wheeling around. He sounds very happy to discover this, so I try to follow his lead. If something bad happened to this facility, then surely the sight of another survivor is a good thing, right? We should check it out, he says. I realize this isn't the best moment to leave Dennis after revisiting Tony's death all over again. Someone just ran by the door, I tell him. Hopefully it's someone who can help us. It's fine, go see who it is, he says, giving me a mock thumbs up. I turn to Marcus and motion for us to head out to investigate. Let's be careful. Depending on who it is, they might not be as hesitant to shoot a stranger as I was. I nod at him as I head for the door. I'm still holding the rifle in my hand, and I don't know if I have the guts to actually use it if needed. With a final look back to Dennis, I run out into the second-level hallway. Marcus follows. There's still fear in his eyes, but also the slightest glimmer of hope. That hope is contagious. We take off after the figure that just ran past the command center. Ahead of us, the facility presents yet another long hallway. Right away, I notice that on this level of this facility seems darker, even though the lights are all on now. The hallway is adorned with numbered yellow doorways and large white panels along the walls. It's clean and well-maintained, but there's something ominous about it. Up ahead, I see the fleeting motion of something dark, cutting quickly to the left, down a corridor. There, I say quietly, pointing up ahead. Marcus gives a nod, and we continue chasing after the person we saw blaze by the command center just a few moments ago. It occurs to me that this person could be like Marcus at first, armed and scared. Hey, stop! Who's there? I get no response, and I'm unsure if I should be relieved or upset by this. The last person we met nearly killed me with a rifle. Why would this person be any different? I quickly dart around the corner and take some shooting, the same shooting stance I've seen countless times on TV. There's a woman standing there, about 10 feet away. She has reddish blonde hair and a small mousy build. She looks terrified and is visibly shaking. She's probably in her late 30s, wearing a lab coat with dark jeans and green Converse low tops. I have a strange sense that her fear is not just about our sudden appearance. She looks like a woman who's been running scared for a while. Her hands are raised in surrender. She's not holding a weapon. Marcus slowly approaches, taking a few steps ahead of me. It's Amy, right? He asks. She blinks, seemingly surprised that he knows her name. Yes, and you're Marcus. She nods absently and then looks to my rifle. I'm not going to use it, but Marcus knows her. Now, how do I know that, she asks. You're trespassing on government property in the midst of a huge catastrophic event, and you have a rifle. How am I supposed to believe you? I have a friend back in the command center who needs medical attention, and we're looking for the rest of our crew. I'm really sorry, but I don't know where they are, she says. Do you know what's happened? From the power outage. I don't know what caused it, she says, but there was an experiment taking place when the outage occurred. Something happened and... She trails off here, giving me a look of distrust. I saw things on the security monitors. The experiment failed, didn't it? I don't know the specifics. I barely escaped the third floor. I was gonna go to the command center to see if the security footage showed anything, but then I saw you and the gun. Listening to their conversation, I'm feeling totally in the dark. What the hell is so scary? Amy looks to me, her eyes wide and terrified. Who are you anyway? I quickly give her my story, a logger stranded in the woods following a peculiar explosion at the logging site. As I tell her, recognition blooms in her eyes. You're one of the loggers? Yes. She then looks to Marcus and says, I thought they were being watched. They were. This is a freak accident and there's no proof that they were responsible. I feel myself wanting to submit to all the questions that are piling up in my head, but Dennis is waiting for me. I decide that despite my curiosity, I need to get Dennis help as soon as humanly possible. Look, is there any medical help to be had here or not? Probably, Amy says, but you'd have to find Colonel Barksdale. He knows where all those sorts of supplies are. And where is he? Where is everyone else? At this, Amy starts to weep. She falls to her knees as if someone had struck her from behind. Gone, she says. Some were killed, and some were just... I don't know. They disappeared right in front of me. Something's here with us, Amy says. We were conducting an experiment and it all went horribly wrong. Something came through. Came through what? Marcus asks. I don't even know that much. An entity. But whatever it is, it's still here somewhere. How could you not know? Don't you have full security access? No, I have access to almost everything. But there are 2 levels of security beyond my clearance. So what do you suggest we do now? I'm not sure, she says, wiping her tears away. But if you want to find your crew, we need to find Barksdale. He's in charge. Where is he? Down on the 3rd level, in the hangar. Then let's go. It's not that easy, Amy says, again looking to the rifle in my hand. Why not? Like I said, something came through when the power went out. There's several of them, all roaming the 3rd level. All I know is that the others refer to them as entities. Amy shudders as she recalls the horror she has seen. I don't even know how to describe them. I didn't get a good look. All I did was run for my life. Behind me, I just heard screams. I know it's not very scientific of me, but I didn't feel like sticking around to learn more. She's right, Marcus says, stopping my train of thought. The things I saw on the monitors, it was crazy. This is insane, I bark. I'm going to the 3rd level to find this Barksdale guy. Thanks for your help. Wait, Marcus said, I'm sticking with you. If we want to get out of here, we have to find Barksdale, right? Yes, but Barksdale's on the 3rd floor and it's too dangerous to go back there. I figure I'll let them make their own decisions. In the meantime, I start heading back to the command center to get Dennis. Before I get there, I hear their footfalls behind me getting closer. I give Amy a questioning look and she quickly looks away, clearly torn. Neither of you know your way around here. Looking for Barksdale on your own would be suicide. Like it or not, she has a point. Fine, then let's go get Dennis from the command center and head down together. We enter the command center and I'm happy to see that Dennis has regained some of his color. We're gonna get you some help, I tell him. And then we're gonna find our crew and get the hell out of here. More help would be great, he says. With the way you took an hour to get my shirt off earlier, I'm not letting you touch me again. Wait, maybe one of us should stay here with him. I'll be okay. He stands to his feet with a grunt. You don't know what's out there. I saw them. I saw what they can do. This facility is not safe. Are there any of them on this floor? I'm not sure, but they're down on the 3rd floor, so we'll need to be careful. Marcus looks a little hesitant, but he nods his agreement and the 4 of us exit the command center. Heading back out in the hallway, I look back to the monitors. I take a final look at the screen that shows my wrecked logging site and I feel a pang of sorrow. Then I look to the other monitors showing live feed of the facility's security cameras. I try to tell myself that I'm not looking for any sign of Amy's creatures, but I can't. That's exactly what I'm doing, and there's no need to pretend otherwise. We head back through the hall and towards the elevator. The tension exists between us is like a physical presence. We step inside the elevator and those pristine doors close. Inside the elevator, Amy seems to become much more guarded and distant from us. I want to assure that I mean her no harm, but I'm also not going to put the rifle down. So you have pretty high clearance in this place, right? That's right. So what kind of experiment are we talking about here? What went wrong? When she starts to answer my question, I can tell that it's something for a relief of her, for her to get some of it off her chest. There's been a lot of work on the project taking place over here over the last 3 years or so. The purpose is to find out if there's any real viable science behind point-to-point instantiation. Like teleporting? Oh my god, I had no idea. I knew there was some weird stuff here, but nothing this insane. It's really not all that insane. We found our first major breakthrough about 9 months ago. We were able to transport a live rat from its cage on level 3 to a small lab in New Mexico. The trick took the rat 5 seconds. Are you kidding me? I can tell that he wants to sound as if he's mocking the idea, but he fails. He's scared. Not at all. The problem was that when the rat arrived, its retinas were detached and its intestines were on the outside of its body. What does this have to do with us now? Well, about 6 months ago, we successfully made the same experiment. The rat arrived in great health, and this time in just 3 seconds. Still, one of the things that we needed to tweak in order to make the process completely safe was to figure out how to keep the subject on a straight course. When the matter is being transported, not only are its atoms being unknit and then put back together upon arrival. Yeah, deconstructed and translated through space. It's the only way we know how to do it right now. But the issue, as I said, comes in keeping the deconstructed subject on a straight course to its destination. When the process occurs, we are deforming space-time. We're creating a shortcut through space, and that has risks. Why exactly, Dennis asks. Because there are many more dimensions in space than the 3 we exist on, she explains. There's some evidence to say that there are as many as 10. So when you send a rat to New Mexico, it's traveling through another dimension to get there, I ask. Basically. And because of that, we're trying to get a better understanding of what these other dimensions are capable of. Things that have a great deal of population would be scared of if they knew what we were doing, hence all the privacy. Then today, the power went out. Went out as we were right in the middle of an experiment. Something happened. What? I don't know. She's speaking with the authority as someone who knows what she's talking about. Is that why those creatures are here? That's my assumption. I wasn't present for the experiment. I'm not cleared for such things, but I do get reports. What reports? Marcus asks. I'm given access to the result of the test. In other words, Marcus replies, clearly upset, you guys have been peeking into other dimensions and taking notes on what you see. I can't believe that I've wasted my life for this, he murmurs to himself. He looks like he's starting to freak out. Amy is quiet. Her expression indicates that she's waiting to see how I react to all this. So this is like interdimensional stuff, I ask? In a way, Amy answers. Marcus, on the other hand, is incredulous. I don't want anything to do with this, he says. All this time I've been working for... He laughs cruelly, and the sound of it makes my blood go cold for a second. Just a single level beneath my feet, you assholes have been tearing apart space and time, Marcus continues. When the elevator doors open, I can't get out fast enough. The tension is growing way too thick for my liking. Outside of the elevators, we step out into what appears to be a massive industrial area. The carnage waiting for us is unlike anything I'd seen in the upper levels. The area looks industrial, like everything was built for utility only. But more noticeable than that is all of the blood. My God, I've never seen so much blood. Those creatures must have had a field day. Holy shit, Marcus says, looking like a man that just awoke from a very bad dream. There were more personnel in this area when the experiment went haywire, Amy says, as if the explanation makes it all better. The research you had to do all down here better be worth it, I say. We had to get moving, or we're gonna lose our nerve. Amy, let's focus. Barksdale is in the hangar, I ask. If he's still alive, yes, that's where he'll be. Then let's hurry, I say. As far as I can tell, Dennis is doing much better, but I'm beginning to grow tired of trying to keep my fear at bay. Between the blood on the floor, the silence of level 3, and Amy's talk of the lab rats, I'm getting freaked out. No, I can do this. The four of us start walking ahead with me in the lead. We stop walking when we come to the remains of what looks to be 3 different people. It's hard to tell how many bodies there were because they've been torn to shreds and are distorted. 2 of the bodies look as if they've been fused together. Another man looks to have his leg welded through the floor. I can see this man's face. He died in an abject state of horror. His mouth pried open in an eternal scream. We gotta investigate the bodies. I see half a face pushed down into the floor like putty, barely attached to a separated skull. A single dead eye stares at me. I think I might puke. Behind me, Marcus does just that. As I listen to him heaving, my eyes cannot leave the carnage. There's blood everywhere, a crimson pool flooding the floor. There are hunks of skin and tissue splattered on the wall, and a strand of unspooled intestine that clings to the floor like a dead snake. Dennis steps up beside me, and when he speaks, his voice is soft and flat. What in the hell could do that to someone, he asks. The things I saw, Amy answers. They could do it pretty easily, I think. She looks pale, and I think that she may pass out at any moment. Tears spill from her eyes, and she's visibly shaking. But she soldiers on, looking back to me and stepping to the side of the gruesome carnage. Her eyes again go to my rifle, and she doesn't look very hopeful. You good to go, she asks me. We need to move on, but for some reason I can't take my eyes off the scene. My mind is reeling. We leave the grisly sight behind, moving into an equally destroyed area. From what I can tell, the next room was once an open area for experimentation. The place hasn't just been destroyed, it's been physically altered in a way that makes no sense. The girders look to have been warped, their very materials distorted and twisted. To my right, a machine has been catapulted and looks to have somehow merged with the wall rather than crashing into it. Beyond these phenomena, there's the standard violence I was expecting to see. There's a limp arm sticking out from underneath the wreckage, and more blood. I see no signs of an explosion, which makes me wonder just how this happened. Seeing the aftermath is sickening enough, but it makes me wonder if Amy saw it while it was happening. Did you see what happened to those girders? I only caught a glimpse of it. It was like trying to focus your eye on something that was too close. They just started twisting, but not creaking or breaking. It's like these creatures are able to deform matter. She pauses here, and that's when we hear something echo through the facility. It comes from behind us and slightly to the right. I'm not sure what it is, but it makes my blood feel like ice. It sounds almost like static from an AM radio, but there's a high-pitched noise beneath it that I can't even start to fathom. What in the hell is that, I ask, instantly clapping my hands to my ears. One of them, she says, her voice a whisper. One of the creatures. That's what they sound like, Dennis asks. I see that he's leaning against the wall, wincing at the noise. I suddenly realize that I have a death grip on the rifle, ready to shoot at the next thing I see. Anything between us and them? Not really. None of the hallways are blocked off by secure doors. Everyone seems to take this as the cue to start moving again. We make our way around the office wreckage, now with new purpose in our step. We barely make it to the other side of the room, approaching a dark hallway when another high-pitched noise sounds out. This one louder, closer. We all share a terrified look, and I can tell that Amy is on the verge of losing it. I grip my rifle tightly as we head towards the hallway in front of us. How much further to the hangar? Close. It's just at the end of this hallway. Dennis speaks up, his voice like ice. Why don't we just haul ass then? No one says anything after that, but I can feel the presence of terror around us, pressing in on us like some new, violent gravity. The small utility hallway is well lit. It looks as if it was designed to only be used by select maintenance workers. What goes on in this area, I ask. I'm looking at Marcus and I ask questions, but he only shrugs in response. She might know, he replies, pointing to Amy. I've never been down here before. It's just a utility hallway, but at the end there's a maintenance room. There should be a gun or two in there. It's also the most direct path to the hangar entrance. As we walk quickly and quietly down the hall, I take a glimpse ahead and feel the hair on the back of my neck stand on end. The lights become more sparsely spaced, and it's impossible to see just how far down the hall extends into the darkness. This hallway has the occasional trace of bloodshed, but nothing like the main area we've come from. We continue farther down, and just as I begin to see what looks like a large metal door further ahead, I hear yet another shrill sound. This one sounds farther away, but no less demonic. How many of these things did you see? 3. But that's just what I saw. There could be more. What did they look like? I don't even know how to explain them. Monsters. That's the only word I can think of. My mind seemed to struggle just trying to understand what I was seeing. They're big, and they seem to jerk around every few feet or so. They look like they're made of light. That's about all I know for sure. You know, my ex-husband always said I'd let my work kill me, she continues, seemingly unable to stop herself. I mean, I doubt he imagined this exact scenario, but still. As we make our way to the hangar doors, another high-pitched scream rings out, angrier now. Amy stops walking, causing all of us to stop and turn to her. We have to do something to slow those things down, she says. No, there's no time. We need to distance ourselves and get to the hangar, fast. Amy ignores him, deep in thought. There's an old hydraulic door set into the wall right here. It hasn't been used for years, though. She looks to me, pleading her case. Together we might be able to pull it closed behind us to keep those things back. Those old hydraulic doors weigh a ton. There's no way it'll work. Roger, what do you think? They'll have a harder time getting to us if these doors are locked. Look, Marcus shouts. We need to get to the hangar now. Damn it, Marcus says. We don't have time for this. Amy ignores him and starts feeling along the hallway for a groove. Dennis and I start looking as well. A minute passes, then I see a small metal frame that runs from the floor to the ceiling. Is this it? I ask. Yes, Amy says. I look to the floor and see an old metal track that runs along the frame. Let's move it, I say. Amy, Dennis, and I start pulling as hard as we can, but it barely budges an inch. Behind us, the static noise rings out. My heart seems to stutter, and Mark lets out a little whine. We're running out of time. We need to go. Those things are getting closer every second. Help us, Marcus. If Marcus just gets off his ass and help us, it won't make a difference. We shut up and help us, and then we'll find out, I shout. Reluctantly, Mark walks over and grasps the door. We all groan as we strain to pull. It starts inching slowly, and then begins moving steadily. Once we get it started, it slides easily. As we near the wall closing off the hallway behind us, I think I can see the merest glimpse of an odd illuminated shape in the darkness. It's cut off by the slight thump of the hydraulic door being pushed against the frame in the opposite wall. Amy turns the lock into place. Great, now let's haul ass, says Marcus. We all turn and get moving again, still feeling unsure about our prospects. The fact that yet another shrill noise sounds out elsewhere in the facility is not calming. And then there are 2 of them. It's almost like they're calling out to one another. The doors to the hangar sit up ahead like an entrance to some enormous labyrinth. When we reach the hangar door, I get a true sense of how impenetrable they are. A computer terminal is mounted on the wall nearby and has a blinking red light. Any idea what this means, I ask? It's an automated lock, a failsafe from the lockdown, says Amy. I've never been down here before, Marcus says. If I'd known this door was here, I would have opened it earlier. How? Amy asks. The fear in her voice is more present than ever. From the command center, you need the override from there first, then use this terminal to open the hangar doors. The command center on the 2nd floor, I ask? Yeah, Amy shakes her head and lets out a nervous laugh. Are you kidding me? We just pulled that hydraulic door and blocked off the hallway, remember? If we want to get into the hangar, we have to get back to the command center. Isn't there another way? Turning to Marcus, Amy replies, well, there's another elevator, but we'll need to go through biochem storage. I need to stay with Dennis so he can rest. You two go. You know your way around this place, and you know the controls, Marcus. Fine, but we'll need to be armed. I hand Marcus the rifle and he turns to go. Amy gives me a concerned look, but follows along behind him. Once Amy and Marcus made it a good distance down the hallway, Dennis lets out a nervous laugh. And then there were two, he says. Dennis looks much better, but he still needs to use the wall to stay standing. Didn't Amy say that there were guns and emergency kits in the maintenance room near the hangar doors, I ask? Yeah, I think so, Dennis says, looking exhausted. I look ahead and see a door to the right that reads maintenance. Might as well give it a try. I go to the door, try to open it, and find that it's locked. I give it a hard shove, but it doesn't budge. I'm about to try again, but that's when I hear the dry choking sound from just down the hallway. It's barely audible, but it's not my imagination. My first thought is that it's one of those things, one of the monsters, but after calming my nerves and reassessing, it sounds more like a person. I think about how angry and on edge Amy was when she turned to leave, as well as how scared Marcus had looked. Alarm bells sound in my head, and before I know it, I'm heading back down the hall away from the hangar doors. Stay here. I'll be right back, I whisper over my shoulder to Dennis. See if you can figure out how to get into that maintenance room. Where are you going? He asks. I don't bother answering him as I bound through the door where Amy and Marcus went. As I enter the biochem room and start walking between the massive silos, I wonder what classified chemicals could be inside of them. I'm fully expecting one of Amy's creatures to come flying out from the intersection of halls up ahead. I think I hear something, a skittering noise, like something moving quickly. I run ahead so fast that I almost trip over two people in a life-or-death struggle. My mind tries to process what I'm seeing, but it makes no sense. None at all. Marcus is on the floor with Amy pinned beneath him. He has his rifle at her throat, pushing her down to the floor and choking her with it. Her face is turning purple, and her eyes look like they may pop out of her head. Marcus sees me coming down the hallway, but acts as if what he's doing is perfectly normal. I start rushing towards him before I really know what I'm doing. I bring my fist down hard in an arc across the bridge of his nose and rewarded with a sick cracking sound. He cries out as he falls to the ground, looking at me as if he doesn't understand why I punched him. On the floor, Amy clutches at her neck and grasps for breath. I start to fear that I was a moment too late just as I see the rifle has been thrown across the floor. Marcus seems to know this at the exact same moment that I do. I deliver a surprisingly strong blow with my right hand, clipping his chin from my awkward position. I'm in the process of planting a knee in his chest to hold him down with his left foot comes out of nowhere, landing hard. The kick catches me squarely in the ribs, knocking the breath out of me. What the hell are you doing? By killing her, I'm saving us all. All of this was her fault. I sense that he truly believes this, but if that's the case, then why not just shoot her rather than strangle her with the rifle? The answer is simple. We would have heard the gunshot, and I, or those things, would have come running. He wanted to kill her quietly. And then what? Would he have done the same to Dennis and me? It seems fitting, really. When we first came upon Marcus, he held a gun on us. I'd been so relieved to see another human being that I'd underestimated just how unhinged he was. Marcus and I both dive for the rifle, but he's still laying on the floor, and start wrestling for possession, but I'm not confident I'll come away with it. As we struggle, he starts inching the muzzle of the gun towards my face, a position I do not want to be in. I start pushing back hard. But if this thing accidentally fires, I'm not sure where I'd prefer the bullet to go, especially in this room full of chemical tanks. I grunt as I push the muzzle to point towards his face. Realizing he's literally looking down the barrel of a gun, Marcus ducks his head out of the way. This makes him lose leverage, allowing me to yank the gun from his grip. I get to my feet as quickly as I can, swinging the rifle back around on him. For a moment I think I've knocked him out, but his eyes flutter and he looks to me as if I've betrayed him. Her people. It was them that did this. She deserves to die. She did this! I look to Amy and wish I could help her. I'm relieved to see that she's managing to draw in a few breaths. Her legs move as she tries to push herself into a sitting position. You wouldn't know. You didn't work here under their secrecy. You don't know what it was like to... He surprises me by lunging towards me, leaping from the floor like a human projectile. His aim is poor and his strength is failing, so I dodge him easily. I don't want to have a gunshot go off and alert those creatures to where we are. Make a hard jab of the butt of the rifle, striking him in the chest, something that crunches, and he lets out a whoosh of air. He crumples for a moment and then goes to his knees. He roars in pain on the floor. Only, after a few moments, I realize that they're not purely screams of pain. The bastard is calling for them, calling for those creatures to come for us. This place is evil, along with everyone involved. If you are taking her side, then you deserve to die too. If you want to stop me, you'd better do it now, you coward. The rage in his eyes at Amy, as well as towards me for stopping him, makes me think that he'll deliver on his threat. I'll raise the rifle again, every urge in my body wanting to make sure that he doesn't come back to bite us. But I'm not a violent man. Just like when I could barely shoot earlier as he was coming at me, I can't bring myself to deliver a kill shot. I ignore him and lean down to Amy. "You okay?" I ask. She nods slowly. "Have to go," she says. "They'll be here any minute, too much noise." I have to hold her arm so she can get to her feet. We start forward and then I think of Dennis. We should go back to the hangar doors. I can't just leave Dennis there. There's no time. You need to come with me up to the command center now. We'll be back for him soon. "You're all dead now anyway," Marcus shrieks. "If they don't get you, I will." He laughs maniacally after saying this, hooting like a madman. As if in response, a high-pitched noise tears through the hallway. I seem to feel it in my bones. They're following his noise now. She takes off away from Marcus, presumably towards the other elevator she'd mentioned moments ago. I follow her. As we move out, I hear Marcus slowly pushing himself off the ground and stumble off, slipping in between the tanks and disappearing. We start running, and after the few first strides, another noise sounds out. It sounds mechanical, but at the same time, it also reminds me of the recordings I've heard of whale songs. Sound of metallic creaking and crashing echoes through the door I came in through. They've reached the hydraulic door we pulled in. Amy says. The sound grows louder and it's clear they're struggling with it, which is good. We have a bit more time. I speed up my step to follow Amy as she leads the way to the other elevator. She's panting furiously but pushes on. I can hear something rattling in her breath, likely the result of Marcus's attacks. This makes me imagine how his cold, uncaring eyes must have looked, staring down at her as he tried to deliver her to death. How she's still forging on is beyond me. I'm sorry about Marcus. It's not your fault. When you handed him the gun, you didn't know he would use it on me. I just hope we can find a way to survive this mess. We'll be fine. I'm not so sure, she says, her eyes fixed straight ahead. I'm not sure I can blame her. I just wanted to say something encouraging, I guess. We finally come to the elevator at the end of a row of silos. The elevator's door slides open slowly. At the moment we hear something behind us, a strangled sort of whistling sound. We step inside and turn around to face the biochem room. Thankfully, we've been getting a few moments to spare. The elevator doors remain open for 3 seconds before they start to slide close again. In those 3 seconds, I see a large shape floating towards us. A phosphorescent-like white glow outlines an impossible shape. Behind it, I see another shape that's also entered the biochem room, and another. The third one breaks away from the other two, taking a quick right. It moves with eerie speed. That's the direction Marcus had gone. Honestly, the thought of them hunting him down doesn't bother me in the slightest. Amy is pressing the button to close the elevator doors over and over, but they stay open for what seems like an eternity. I curse whoever designed these damn doors. Amy and I slide ourselves up against the sides of the elevator, trying to avoid being seen. But I can't help but peeking around the corner. I hold the rifle steady, ready to fire, and that's when I see them in clear light for the first time. I can see their features, their shape and their colors, but my mind can't quite process it all. Nothing about them makes any sense. My eyes try to see a squid, but that's not what these things are. They're gray and white and seem to be nothing more than squirming light. Their appendages are neither legs nor tentacles, but somewhere in between. They don't walk on these appendages, they just use them to glide. They move like ghosts and seem to jerk every few feet or so. But I'm pretty sure that this jerking effect is not a result of their moving, but my mind's inability to understand how they're moving exactly. It's also more than their appearance that makes a mockery of reality. The light around them seems to bend inward, as if the space within the room is to reshape itself for their existence. That peculiar effect on the air makes their movements seem like something moving underwater, only faster. They screech in unison as they rush towards the elevator. They'll be inside here in another few seconds. I check the rifle and see that my ammo is diminishing. I have to start staving my shots. I'm going to have to be choosing. Now about a foot remains between the sliding doors. I find my muscles reacting instinctively again. I pull the trigger. The shot fills the elevator and there's a thunder in my ears. I hit the thing in the center and the reaction is not what I expect. The monster pauses and spasms for about 2 seconds. Its body of light flickers for a moment, similar to a light bulb on the brink of burning out. My finger keeps pulling the trigger. The throb of the rifle in my hand is comforting, and each screech from the creature is like music. But then I realize that this only seems to be slowing it down. Its tentacles seem to tighten and then loosen, like a weird muscle reflex, but then it's on the move again, unharmed by the shots. Finally, the elevator door closes. The creatures wash against the other side of the door, making an electrical noise and crying out in anger. The tips of their spider-like appendages poke through the wall and elevator door, but for some reason they can't get all the way through. Amy screams at this and curls into a ball at the far end of the elevator, crying. I say nothing to her. I just cling to the rifle, hoping those creatures don't find Dennis as he waits by the hangar doors where I left him. For his sake and ours, we need to get them open now.